Today's segment of Oh Brother is sponsored by FLS Energy, bringing solar energy to your home. Visit them on the web at flsenergy.com for more information.
All my brothers are so southern, they'll get up for you for nothing.
It's Friday, Reed. I'm on cloud nine.
Yeah.
Not just because it's Friday, but just
Because
after
you've been
that.
listening to that George Harrison record?
Nope.
No?
It's just because of my big win yesterday.
Wow. Tell me about it.
What do you mean? You were there. I beat Josh Richards so bad.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
What
thought
are
you
you
were like,
thinking
yeah,
about?
you're right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What win were you thinking?
I don't know. I was curious to know what you had won. When I think of you, I don't think of winning because normally on Three's
So
a Crowd,
surprising
I was
that
very- even though it happened yesterday, I already had forgotten about it because I thought it was like when you hear,
You know,
like,
really, Reed, and let's be honest, we
yeah.
record all these things at the same time.
it's only been 4 minutes.
It was 4 dang minutes ago.
4 minutes ago.
And you're like, what? What
What'd you
happened? Who won
Listen,
something?
When I hear about you winning Three's a Crowd, you know what it's like? It's like when I recently read, and we're going to talk about this soon. Have you heard about this tennis rally at the Virginia Slim tournament in 1984? What would you guess if I told you this is true?
A tennis rally
This is
sponsored
true.
by cigarettes?
This is true. No, yeah. Which is funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was laughing at.
That is funny to think about, yeah, but not real. I don't. Do you count Virginia Slims as cigarettes? I don't.
I don't know.
Yeah. Listen, this was a deal. If I said to you, what would you guess is the longest tennis rally of all time ever? What would you guess? Like how long?
Well, it
would
seems
go
like you and
on?
I did like 120.
120 shots.
Yeah.
Did we?
I don't know.
No. You know, my wife and I do this sometime when we practice tennis.
Yeah.
We try to see how long of a rally. 64.
Of course, that's not even competitively. That's trying to
That's
keep the ball
trying
in
to
play.
hit easy shots. We've gotten 64, my wife and I. I
Okay,
think you and
yeah.
I might have gotten before along.
In competitive play, yeah, I'd say around 100, you'd think.
Okay. You're way off. Way off. And I'm not going to say right it is right now, but the point is this. I read an article recently. We're going to talk about it on a future to discuss list. Way off. And it's the sort of thing when I saw this, if it wasn't in the New York Times, I would have thought this is not true. And when I hear about you winning on Three's a Crowd, I think that can't be true. That cannot be true.
All right, we're wasting time here.
Okay,
I'm Will
okay.
Lochamy along with Reed Lochamy. You're listening to Oh Brother. It's a podcast recorded at the Brandon Brown and the Country Western Delight Studios.
That's right.
Reed, it's Friday, and that means it's time for the final countdown, and we know that because that music just started a second
Oh,
ago.
listen to that.
There
Yeah,
you
I
go.
did. Yeah, it just got queued up there. Yeah, Will, every Friday we count down 5 things, and this week is sort of a morbid final countdown. This is the final countdown.
Yeah, no kidding. This is it, buddy.
This week we are counting down 5 good ways to die.
And people would say, well, there's no good way to die. But look, everybody's got to die.
You're going to have to die.
Yeah.
Now, I actually am not going to die. I'm going to try not to die.
You're
but
going to, though, Reed.
Well, let's see.
So basically,
we'll let
we're
time
saying
tell.
here,
Yeah.
if you had to die, which you do, if you had to choose the way
Pretty
you're
much
going to
everybody
die,
except for me is going to die, yeah.
here are like the top 5 ways to do it.
If you had to pick one. All
Yeah.
right, so, Will, let's jump right into this very morbid final countdown. Will, what's number 1?
Okay, number 1 is ironically dying.
Yeah,
The
here's
death
my
of irony.
Yeah, here's my thing, is if you're going to die...
Make
you
it
might-
funny for some
Well,
people.
sort of, yeah. Or like, here's the thing. Like people that died on the Titanic because they were on the ship that could not sink.
Right.
And yet they did and they died. And that's sort of a good way to go because you become the part of... Or you know what? Like what if you went with your buddies skydiving or whatever?
Right.
And everybody's like, I'm going to go skydive. And you were like, oh, I don't want to do that because that seems dangerous. And you stayed on the ground and they went up to skydive. And then while you were waiting on them to jump out of the plane... A bull ran out of the woods and trampled you to death.
Well,
now
Reed,
that would
I'll
be
tell
ironic.
You, as a skydiver,
Yeah. Yes.
which I am,
Very safe.
Yeah, you're about as likely to get hit by a bull running out of the woods as you
but,
are a skydiving.
yeah. So you see what I'm saying, though. That would
Sure.
be a funny story.
Sure.
That would be an ironic death, and at least you would not live on literally because you would be dead because
Right.
the bull trampled you to death.
Right.
But you would live on in the story.
All right, number 4, Reed.
Number 4, good way to die for a cause.
Yeah, like, I mean, I hate to say protesting here because we know how we feel about protesters.
and I
Come
kind of
on,
wish some
shut
of them
up.
would die. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
that's how I feel about protesters.
Protesters.
You shut up over
Ooh.
there.
I just had to read Norman Mailer's book, Armies of the Night, which is all about these protesters protesting the Vietnam War in a march on the Pentagon. And the whole time I just kept thinking, here's my thing about protesters, is if you want people to take you seriously, you need to show up like wearing reasonable clothes and saying reasonable things. Like if you show up wearing like all kind of like I'm dressed in a trash bag and I'm gonna, I haven't washed my hair in 17 years, then I don't care what you have to say. Honestly, that's my opinion.
All right, so we're not talking about protesters here. We're talking about people for a real cause,
Yeah.
like if
in a good war, like a war where you're really fighting against the bad guys. And,
right. Yeah.
I would say something like that.
A lot of people that signed up right there after September 11th.
Pat Tillman.
There's
There's an interesting book out now. The same. I didn't know this. The guy that wrote Into Thin Air, the Krakauer, the guy that writes all those books, has written a book about Pat Tillman's death.
It came out recently.
Very interesting. It sounds like Pat Tillman would be a good example. Now he died in friendly fire, but it was he was doing what he believed in. That's a good way to die if you're gonna have to die.
Yeah, number 3, Reed, drowning. What?
Now,
You put this?
I put this, but now notice I put a question mark. Will I have heard, if I were to think of the ways I would not want to die, I'd put drowning right at the top.
Oh, yeah, next fire, maybe.
But you know what? I've actually heard that drowning is supposed to be one of the most peaceful ways. Now, sure, initially when you think, oh, I'm going to drown, apparently that's supposed to be terrifying.
Panic,
yeah. But apparently once it's a fait accompli. Once it's going to happen, it's apparently supposed to be one of the most peaceful
How
ways.
do you know? How do people know?
I don't know.
I
don't know.
But how would people know?
Maybe people have
they've
been revived.
brought back.
Yeah. But now fire is supposed to be one of the worst ways to die, I understand.
Painful. I mean, a burn is so painful anyway. Can you imagine your whole body being burned to the point of where you're dying?
Sometimes probably better to go ahead and die at that point.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, supposedly, drowning is supposed to be one of the most peaceful ways to die. I can't imagine it's true, but this is what the studies say. Well, number two, doing something brave.
Yeah.
If you're going to have to die, then pushing a small child out of the way of an oncoming car, that's probably a good way to go. Because then, forever, people are going to be like, wow, remember that guy?
Saving someone from being attacked by dogs.
Oh, yeah.
We knew somebody. Remember that, Reed?
No.
Yeah. That guy that worked for me.
Oh.
Yeah. Remember that's how he met his girlfriend, she was being attacked by pit bulls.
Sure he didn't just make this story up.
Well, he had holes in his arm, Reed.
Wow.
I don't think he made that up. I mean, he actually had big holes in his arm.
Now, he didn't really die, though.
No,
he
was
on
saving
to...
someone from dying, and then he got attacked himself there.
Yes, indeed.
And drove me crazy for years.
Yeah.
Okay, number 1, in your sleep.
This has got to be the best way to go.
Yeah, everybody wants to go in their sleep.
Yes.
You don't want to know you're dying.
I think in your sleep is easily, we can all agree that's the best way to go.
Yeah.
Because even if you wake up and realize that, I'm dying, you're probably going to be confused about it because you're like, well, what's going on? I've been sleeping. And then you're dead.
Yeah, death's a funny thing, Reed, and I don't mean funny, haha.
Yeah.
I mean funny like,
odd.
Oh, boy.
That kind of
I don't know about this.
Kind of like depressing and sad funny.
But it's always very interesting for me, for some reason. My wife and I had a friend recently that died of leukemia, and he apparently, right up to the end, was conscious and awake and said, okay, here I go.
Was okay with it.
Well, and said to his brother, take me home, and then he died.
Will, there are two things I'm surprised did not make this list. I'm extra surprised because I made out the list.
Okay.
But I'm surprised that during sex didn't make the list. You'd think that would make the list of a good way to die.
It probably would
People
on
talk
anyone
about
else's
that.
list,
Yeah,
but you didn't think of it.
I don't need to make my list. And then also heroin overdose. I've always thought if you're going to die, heroin overdose probably not a bad way
because it's supposed to be
heroin's supposed to be very euphoric.
Yeah, euphoric was the word I was looking for.
Really, well, we've counted down 5 good ways. So I don't think there's really necessarily a good way. I've always thought that